Salud, friend. Happy Black Moon.
Dark Moon.
I like how we both turn to the camera.
God damn.
She a baddie.
She knows she a 10.
Welcome to the very first episode of Demystified. This is a podcast where we talk all things spirituality, the occult, and astrology. I'm your host, AJ of the crzydreamr network, and today is a very special time and a cosmically aligned time in which we are here to celebrate this new Black Moon in the sign of Virgo, which happens August 22nd or 23rd, depending on where you are in the world. And today, y'all, I had to bring on someone very special, very aligned, my good friend, my bestie, Miss Tracy Williams. Tracy is an entrepreneur, an HR baddie who owns the company WBD, Will Be Done Management, a mother of 3 beautiful babies, and a goddess, the empress of the Elemental Shop, a spiritual collective in the heart of downtown Long Beach. It was only fitting that I brought Miss Tracy Williams out here today to talk to y'all, and me, of course, about this beautiful Black moon in Virgo. Tracy, welcome to the pod. I am so happy. You know how long we've been
talking, girl.
We have been talking about this for years, literally.
Yes.
And we finally did it. We did it,
Finally, you did it, friend. And I'm really grateful to be a part of it. As tears come to my eyes, you know, it just speaks to the importance of saying things out loud.
Period.
You know, because look, here we are. We have been talking about this for some time, but here we are today, and it's because you did the hard thing, you know.
But to your point, us speaking about it out loud, both of us, and planning it, it was from our mouths to the universe's ears. And, you know, here we are. I was just like, F it. It don't have to be perfect. We just have to at least start from somewhere.
Right.
So here we are. And double thanks to you. For those who don't know, this is Tracy's house, right? This is her backyard, one of her many. Okay. But this is one of her backyards, and I'm just so grateful that, you know, I have her in my life. And trust me, she is one of the reasons why I have Tribe in Long Beach today, but we'll get back to that in a second. So how are you feeling during this shadow period of this Black new moon in Virgo? You know, for those who don't know, the shadow period happens 3 days before and 3 days post the peak of the new moon. This one would be the 22nd or the 23rd. So how are you feeling, my friend?
I'm gonna keep it real with the people. I'm feeling a little eerie, but this is normal for me, and I think it's like a double whammy this time. So you know, you think about the shadow, something that's maybe not there in plain sight, and that's exactly what the Black new moon is, right? The new moon, opposite of the full moon, is a little more empty. Right, when we look at it in the sky, and it's said that with a Black moon, we may not even see it there. So I feel that eeriness. I feel like I'm feeling something, and I'm not really sure what that is. I've been explaining it to people like, you know, it's August, but it feels like October. It feels like November. You know, feels like we're on the brink of something. I noticed that my cat is hiding. My dog is acting a little weird. So it's something very transitional, but because I can't see it, I can't put my finger right on it. That leads me to feel a little eerie or a little scared, dare I say. So yeah, that's what's happening for me.
Tracy, you hit the nail on the head, friend, because while I wouldn't say I've been feeling like that, but as soon as you brought up that keyword shadow, boom. It's so interesting because go check out Tracy's shop, the Elemental Shop on L in Long Beach if you're in here. Also www.theelementalshop.com. But I got a deck there a couple days ago, and literally, I want to say a day ago, I pulled the shadow, and they were basically saying, make friends, you know, make friends. So the fact that you are even sensing, as intuitive as you are, that eeriness in the air and stuff like that. I just think it is so spot on. And, you know, you're just very connected, of course. But to Tracy's point, the dogs, the cats, they're
Right?
feeling it.
I'm like,
The animals be feeling it.
right?
Yeah, the animals will feel it first and foremost. And another thing that I wanted to bring up, Lilith, the goddess Lilith. So during this black moon, it's been said that, you know, the goddess Lilith is a good deity to connect to, as well as the Black Venus. So as soon as Tracy said she was feeling that shadow, I also thought about Lilith, because Lilith, when we talk about the tree of life in Kabbalah, which is, you know, aligned with occultism and the tarot, there's two. There's the white and there's the black. And Lilith is associated with the black because she is basically the shadow aspect of the tree of life, in one of the aspects of the tree of life. And so when Tracy brought that up, I'm just like, it's clocking. It's clocking to you because you hit the nail on the head. And I know you. So tell me a little bit about your relationship with Lilith, like, because I know ever since I met you, like, to me, Tracy is the epitome. She is the quintessential dark feminine. You know what I'm saying? Just and it's ironic because she's so loving, she's so nurturing on the inside, but she's so like alluring, and like just her aesthetic on the outside is like quintessential dark feminine. So like, tell me like your connection with the goddess Lilith, or like, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think for me, it just is always going to take me back to my Christianity days, you know, born in the Christian church. And I actually don't mind that label today.
Yeah.
But I think I just have my own definition of what Christianity is that may not align with someone else's.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put that out there. But I think when Lilith was first introduced to me, it was from that sort of Orthodox backing of her being the first woman, you know, predating Eve, you know, and her sort of having her own will and wants and determinations and not conforming, you know, to others' expectations that was sort of put on her. And so I think the way I see it in relation to what I'm experiencing in this dark black moon is just bringing those ideas, those wants that are kind of pushed back aside. You know, maybe you're a mother and you know, want to go back to school and really be a lawyer, you know, and you're like, oh, I can't start over and I'm a mother and I got to be here with my kids. And I think with a new moon setting intentions, right, it's time to really go visit those things that we may be taught don't deserve the light, you know? So that's sort of what comes up for me when you bring up Lilith, especially during this time, right? I'm thinking about this eeriness. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling? You know, and what part of that am I hiding or, you know, not giving the time, the light, the energy that it needs and it deserves? Because, you know, it's all experience. Whether, you know, I think we get stuck in the confounds of the definitions of dark and light and good and bad. It's all an experience. It's all meant to contrast and bring about new life. So
Excellent point, Trace. Excellent point. And it's so interesting how aligned you are because, you know, just to piggyback off of what you said, like it started for you as an origin in the Christian church. So to piggyback off of what Tracy just said, her origins, especially when it came to spirituality and let's be honest, the occult, because, you know, us as grown-ups, we know that a lot of the origins of Orthodox religion, it comes from hidden wisdom. It comes from the occult. So Tracy, you know, so you grew up in the church with your mom as a pastor. I wonder how was that like and what were those early experiences and how it shaped you practicing spirituality today?
Yeah, I smile when you answer that question because it's a beautiful experience for me. I wouldn't change it for the world, although my walk looks a little different today. It is rooted in that early foundation. first and foremost, I think that I am just a being of community. And so my early sense of community and camaraderie and what was the word you used earlier? Tribe comes from the church, so it comes from being around like-minded people, and creating rituals, right? Something that maybe growing up at that time, I think was a word that was frowned upon. But now having experienced both, I can see the alignment, the similarities, right? So being in a community with like-minded people and, having rituals that had history and meaning and intention behind them, right? That sort of rooted my first experience, in community. But even I think about people who weren't like-minded, right? So those Sundays when an unsaved saint coming to the church, and maybe their skirt is too short or they, they got on pants and you like, women don't wear pants in the church, you know what I mean? So when you have those experiences with people who aren't like-minded, and where you go from there, right? That taught me how to be receptive of everybody and how we can learn from each other, two completely different paths, but we can really learn from each other and influence each other and both walk away stronger and brighter and better, right? That sort of community. And really that's the basis of the Elemental Shop today. We call ourselves a spiritual collective because in my mind, through my research and my studies, it's all the same. We're all talking about the same thing. If you look at, Eastern principles versus Western, or you look at Christianity versus Buddhist, and you will see the alignment. And so that very practice that I picked up on in the church, I brought into our space now. And so we receive and accept everybody. And I understand that I'm a student and a teacher in there. And somebody who walks in is also a student and teacher. We're going to learn from each other and again, be bigger, better, wiser, brighter, following our interactions. So I would say early on it's that, but also in, that upbringing in the church, rooted me in historic texts. What? The occult.
Come on.
Hello. Come on. And so growing up there, I was always really excited to participate. I didn't have the best voice, but I love me a microphone.
Come on.
So we
riff all the time.
Right. On a daily.
We harmonize all the time.
All the time. So I was often the mistress of ceremony, right? I was putting on programs, teaching Sunday school for a long period of time. Yeah, girl, I love teaching Sunday school to babies. The babies was mine. And that led me to the Christian school, Azusa Pacific. Shout out to Azusa Pacific University, where I got my bachelor's and master's. And continued on with, taking in knowledge. And it was that experience that really exposed me to say, okay, there's more out there. There's some things that I think are being shielded from us. There's some perspectives that I didn't have access to previously. I don't need to just read this Bible. I need to actually pair it with this dated history text. I need to understand the origin of this word. I need to know that, this word in Hebrew actually does not translate into English. So they picked a whole new word, right? There was some context that I think that I was missing, that once I got access to that really expanded my mind and led me to the Christian that I am today.
Come on. And it's so interesting just how aligned, and I know I'll keep saying this until the end of this podcast, but just how aligned, because to your point, Tracy, as soon as you brought up just, your origin story from the church and how, it cultivated a sense of community in you, I was asking for a tribe. I was asking for kind of like a soul family before I met Tracy. So I'm going to keep this story very brief, but how I met Tracy, this Empress, especially of her spiritual collective, the Elemental Shop, was actually through her shop. And basically, long story short, I was going through my own kind of fool's journey, so to speak. And you know, I had a friend of 20 years just ghost me, child. And I was at first I was okay with it. I was like, whatever,
Right.
but you know, ultimately, as a year progressed, I did a sobriety and celibacy journey for a year. I was like, I want community. I want a sense of camaraderie with like-minded individuals. And to Tracy's point, you know, her growing up in the church and her building that space, it led me there. So in a very mystical way, I know I would always walk around downtown Long Beach because I was living in downtown at the time. And something told me, take a new route. And I listened to my intuition, and I did. And one day I was on Elm, where her shop is, and I had passed. I was like, what's this? I was like, is this new? I've never seen this place before. And I was looking in it, and I was like, if only it was black owned. If only it was black owned. And I was like, you know what? But who cares? You know, I'm going to make a mental note, and I'm going to come back because it was closed. It was early. It was early in the morning. So I came back. And at first her assistant was there. And she was like, okay, well, Tracy's on vacation, but you know, she'll be back. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So followed up, and lo and behold, I see this beautiful black woman, this mystical being behind the cash shop. And I'm like, are you the owner? She's like, I am. And I said, oh my God. And the rest is history, y'all. The rest is history. So again, to Tracy's point about how Christianity was actually a foundation and a stepping stone to her cultivating the community that we have in her spiritual collective, the Elemental Shop, and just being in general. Tracy has always been a person very open-minded, very open, and that's, I think, what drew me to her. I felt comfortable in her presence, and I feel like the people who frequent the shop, we do, you know, it's more of a family. And I know it's not in a toxic way, but it really is more of a family, and she makes us feel that way. So again, to your point, you brought up a point where a question that I had was it your schooling, your background, because you know I want to give her accolades because she deserves it. So you know, Tracy has her MBA. She has her bachelor's, and like she repped her set Azusa Pacific University. So Tracy, you already had an MBA, an HR company, and 3 children. And then you decided to open up a spiritual collective in Long. What made you take that leap, my friend?
Girl, I just be doing stuff. I be doing stuff, y'all. I just be doing stuff. I wish I had an educated answer.
No, you know? I love it.
And I do. I be doing stuff, but in addition to that, I was searching for something that I couldn't find, and I said I can't be the only one.
Come on.
And so the next thing to do is to create it, and that just felt so right to me. I did not think about the fact that I had no retail experience. You know, I did not think about that.
I love retail therapy.
Right, I love retail therapy. Listen, I'm a consumer. That's my experience.
Period.
But yeah, I couldn't let those things hold me back. I needed access to these tools, access to these books. I needed to be able to walk into a space where I felt comfortable to ask a question, where I could learn or teach. And so I created that space. It was just a supercharged thing. It was like this. It was like, I'm gonna make it. Okay. And I just went to do it. And when I look back and think about it now, I'm just like, man, well, thank God.
Come on.
Thank God I didn't have no reservations, you know, because here we are.
Because here we are. And I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful you went for it. And I don't know if you remember that story that you told me. You remember when you were at church and she was with her daughter, Lily, and we'll put that up. She was with her daughter, and she basically got this like download from Spirit, like ordering her steps. And so can you kind of elaborate on that? You remember, was that the story?
It might have been right before the store opened. So let me take it back just a little further, because I feel like somebody needs to hear this, especially in a new moon.
Yes,
Again,
come on.
and taking
Come on.
those ideas and those feelings that you have that are being pushed out, that are being shadowed, that are being, you know, called dark or not good enough, or doesn't align with the way a teacher should think, a black woman should think, you know, a thicker woman, like, you know what I'm saying?
On, yeah.
All those
Talk
things.
about it. Yeah.
So to your point, single mother of 3, already running another business. Why would you go do this, Tracy? But I was in the bathtub and I was listening to a mixtape from Shayla Marie. It is a meditation mixtape. And I stumbled across one called Work. And she tells you exactly what to do. So if you're new at meditating, the mixtape is perfect. And so she is asking you to think about what your job looks like. And I have a very vivid imagination, and I attribute that to spirituality. I attribute that to the natural occult that lives within me.
Yeah.
So as she's describing, think about your work, think about what you're wearing, think about what it looks like. How do you feel when you get there? It's easy for me to create this in my mind because I have a vivid imagination. I grew up very honed into what do they call invisible, the people who ain't really there.
Imaginary friends.
Yes, I grew up with a slew of imaginary friends around me. I knew them all by name. I knew what they looked like, which I now understand that to be channeling angels, or my spirit guides, right? But back then, you know, it was just my imagination. So in the tub, I tap into this imagination and I see myself walk into a space, which is now the elemental shop. That's what I saw. I saw the elemental shop as a businesswoman who already owns an HR firm with full clientele. I walk into the shop. I am coaching and counseling people about spiritual practices. I go upstairs. I take some of my meetings for my HR business. I go back downstairs. I coach and counsel, do some readings, and then I go get in my car and I go home. Right. And that is the elemental shop today. That's how we opened the elemental shop. I drove up to a space, saw the for rent sign, looked inside. Let me get close to y'all to say this. This is the eeriness. Looked inside, and it was that very space with the loft, with the office up top. It was exactly from what I imagined in that bathtub during my manifestation meditation. Right? So that's not enough that, you know, I see this happen in the bathtub. A couple of days later, I go to church. I think this is the story you're talking about. I go to church and the preacher is preaching about how when you know God is about to reveal something new for you in your life that you've been asking for.
Yeah, this is the story.
Yep, and he had about 3 different reasons, and they're unorthodox, or it's not normal stuff. You know, it's things that make you feel like this is crazy, this is scary, this is dark, right? But you have to trust and believe. And I can't remember the exact, you know, word for word of the message, but I do remember he said, "Thy will be done," which is the business that I do have. And it's like at those 3 different points he gave really aligned with what I was experiencing about creating this metaphysical shop. And then he went into "Thy will be done," which is, you know, out of the prayer, Matthew 6 and 9, Matthew 6 and 10, which is where I got the name for my first company. So it just all really aligned. And it's the reason why for me in spirituality, it's really all one. And I feel like I can walk into any building where we are grounded in education and history and, you know, sharing points of view for people, and I can find alignment there. And that's what happened to me in church that day.
I love that. It's such a testimony, Tracy. That's why I had to bring it up, because it was such a testimony. And so many people like might even have those instances, but they maybe like overlooked it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But you didn't.
Yeah.
And look at, to your point again, look at where we are now.
Yeah.
You know, if anybody who goes to visits the shop, you guys will be blown away. Just simply, if anything, simply because of the intention that has been put in that shop. And the expansion, and we'll get to that in a moment, but I really wanted to touch on another point that you made in your testimony. Hey, shout out to Shayla Marie.
Yes,
Shout out
girl.
to Shayla
Oh
Marie.
my
Because
God.
we're going to have to put that meditation in the description box down below. But shout out to that channeling session that basically you had in the tub. You know what I'm saying? Again. And being a steward of the word. You know what I'm saying? Being a steward of the word, because you didn't just sit there and listen idly. You know, you actually did the work, you did your due diligence, and I feel like it paid off tremendously, and it will continue to pay off tremendously.
Okay, and so since we're talking about this, I had to get the notes because Gemini, right?
So just to Tracy's point, Gemini, Sun, Pisces, Sun.
Yes.
Go ahead, Fred.
And this says, as all my fellow Geminis out there, y'all know how we geek out over the education when we really accept it.
Yeah.
So I just want to tell y'all the message that the pastor was given that day, and mind you, I'm not an avid member of church these days, right? Because church is a collection space, right? So again, that community that I talked about, I picked up from my experience. That's really the idea behind church. Church is also another word for your chakra, because church is a collection space where energy resides, right? Yeah. So on this realm, when we go to church, there's energy, the like-minded energy in there, right? We're learning, we're praying, worshiping together. Your chakra is also a church. That is a collection space of energy. It spins in a direction, and it has to do with your fulfillment, how you evolve in life, all of these things. So this is another reason why I say it's important to really dive into the origin and the meaning of these words. But hadn't been going to church regularly, I
know Lily.
Yes, Lily loves that church. She's my daughter. She loved that church. And so we went to that church. Now, the message that the pastor was given that day was how you know when you're experiencing unescapable alignment, right? And he had these 3 points. The first point is he says stuff starts happening that's not normal. Ooh, stuff you don't see coming along your journey will start to happen. Now, mind you, I went to church on, the date is here in the note, Sunday, January 8th, 2023. That was when I went to church. I had done the meditation in the tub in December. January 8th, I go to church to get this message. January 11th, I signed the lease for the shop. And like I mentioned to you guys, I'm going to a plant shop. And I just happen to pull up. I look at this building, I see the for rent, and I look in the store, and it looks like what I imagined in the bathtub. Stuff will start to happen on your path. My normal journey, he talked about, met Jesus on the road, right? That's how he tied it in. But for me, it was, I ran into the shop, going to the plant store, signed the lease 2 days later. The second point was, you've been unleveled or knocked to the ground for some time. And he starts to describe that whenever we're in a period of time where we're living in some disappointment for a while, things aren't really going our way or how we wanted them to go, and we can't get out, is because we're learning things in that moment that we're later going to apply when we do get what we want. Yeah. Which is, what happened in the shop. I think about, even before opening my own HR business, the unhappiness in the career fucking world. Right? Come on. Talk about it. Yes. The whole reason I went into HR was because at the tender age of maybe 20 or so, being let go from a job for something that felt discriminatory or unjust. Yeah. And I said, I don't know what I need to know. This ain't never going to happen to me or my family again. I'm going to go learn everything about the employment world so that I can counsel and make sure this doesn't happen to me or my family again. So that's why I got into it. Fast forward, get the master's degree. I'm working. I'm trying to climb the corporate ladder. I was very unhappy in the corporate space at work. Being in a position, like HR, to make a difference where you have 2 clients, you work for the employer, but you're also looking out for the employees, and you see the unjustness that's happening in the office that you're in. You know what I mean? So this was another situation where I couldn't find what I was looking for. And so I left to create it. That's why I created WBD. But again, all of that experience, feeling knocked down, feeling unjust, feeling discriminated against, feeling not seen, you know, all of that. In that time, I was learning things that I now put into practice in my own business. I couldn't do that if I didn't have that season
For sure.
of darkness.
For sure. The shadow.
The shadow,
friend. To pull it back full circle.
Yeah. I wouldn't have had that without that shadow period.
Yeah.
And then the last point in my notes says banana. So I can't get on the last point, and I don't remember. But
it was banana.
But what that is I probably at some point typed over that. But all that to say, I think that even that story just aligns back to the black moon, right? We talked about that eeriness. We talk about the black moon, they say, and not really being able to see it in the skies, but like, how do we take charge of that in our own lives? In this experience, in this 3D world that we are creating ourselves. Look at what I did in that bathtub. We are creating ourselves with our thoughts, with our words, how you and I talked about the podcast, and boom.
Talked about it.
So how do you take those experiences that may be labeled dark, or shadow-esque?
Right.
And how do you bring them and rebirth it in the light and do what you want to do?
Period.
Yeah.
Just such a blessing. It is so really blessing, or whatever you want to call it. Right? But it's such an honor to have you on this first episode of Demystified, because I feel like you're the epitome of what this show is about. You know what I mean? And I mean like a collective coming together and telling our truths and owning it and realizing that the mystical, it isn't so far-fetched as the mainstream media or your grandmother. Love you, granny.
Yeah, whomever
would like you to think. It's so practical. And if you just listen to those still small voices, if you just listen to the way in which the universe or spirit source, whatever name you want to give, come on, insert name here, that part first. Whatever name you want to give it is always talking to us. It's always talking to us. And literally, that's the reason why I named this podcast Demystified, because it's really a decoding, of something that it literally guides all of our lives, whether we want to acknowledge it or not, whether we're ready to acknowledge it or not. It guides every single last entity on this planet. The unseen. Right? So, I just appreciate you so much, Trace. And also in reverence to this black new moon, and really, Virgo, yes, but this black new moon, the moon cycles. What is your connection to the dark feminine? What is your connection to that, to the divine dark feminine?
Yeah, it's so empowering for me, because I think, it's just so many labels and expectations about what women can do and who we can be. And I think that for me, that dark feminine comes in to shake all that shit up.
Come on.
Say, I can actually do what I want to do.
What I want.
When I want to do it. That's the divine feminine. Right? It's the flow to be able to do what you want to do when you want to do it.
Come through.
Boldly. And so that's what it is for me. I'm thinking back to, I think, my favorite dark feminine deity. You said, do it, friend. Do it. It's Sekhmet.
Oh, come on. Oh, yeah. Come on.
You, girl.
This is going to be another episode, y'all. Because this woman in Egypt, let me tell you, this woman in ancient Kemet, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
this is gonna be a whole nother episode. So just brace yourselves.
Yeah, it is. So the goddess Sekhmet, she's, depicted as the lion face with the feminine body. They always gonna give us the body.
Come on.
That we get to have. And she's the warrior goddess, and she was really used to go in and she will wipe out whole communities. Like, I see her as who took Sodom and Gomorrah down. You know what I mean? That was her. And so she gets the bad rap.
Right.
They
all do.
Yeah, they
always trying to come for the divine,
right,
feminine,
because of the labels. Because we got to keep it cute and keep it pretty and curtsy. But when you don't allow somebody to walk over you and you come tear their shit apart, then now it's a problem. You see what I'm saying? And so that's why she's my favorite. But I think balance and everything.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that in Kemet, there's going to be different stories. I know a lot of people see Sekhmet and Hathor as completely different. Again, y'all know, for me, spiritual collective, it's all one. I think all the deities are one. These are different manifestations, different energies that come out at different times, depending on what's needed. That's my own personal opinion. But I think that everything with balance. So while Sekhmet can come and be warrior goddess and tear things apart, so that we can have a death, which will bring a new beginning. I think that other loving side of her is the Hathor energy.
Yeah.
Right. But so to answer your question, I think it's so needed because you can't see a shadow without a certain amount of light. Ooh. Right? Do we understand that? If it's pitch,
repeat that, friend.
You can't see a shadow without a certain amount of light.
Tell them.
If it's pitch black in a room, there is no shadow.
Tell them.
Where is that?
Tell them.
You know what I mean? And so that to say that the divine feminine is equally beautiful and rightfully has its place. Yeah. That is my sort of understanding, and that's how I accept that.
And I love that articulation of it, because you're absolutely right.
Dragonfly.
Come on, Dragonfly.
Oh my gosh, a scarab.
Come on, scarab.
We're talking about Kemet. Abundance.
And Sekhmet.
Yeah.
But yes, to Tracy's point, I love her articulation of it, because she's absolutely right. And what stood out for me the most was you saying that you cannot see a shadow without a bit of light.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that goes vice versa, right? If it's too bright in the room, you can't see nothing either, right? So it's just like, I think that's so beautiful. And you said that very profoundly, because again, to your point about the dark feminine always getting that bad rap. Mm-hmm. But what's their origin story? What brought them to this point? Because not everyone starts off, you know what I'm saying? Like, people, like in philosophy, they talk about, are people inherently good or bad? No, they're not. It's a medium. Like, people aren't inherently good nor bad. It's nature versus nurture. It's all the things that attribute to a person's upbringing and what brought them to that point, to where you can even ask that question. So I love the fact that Tracy very profoundly, very articulate, like how she articulated that, because she hit the nail on the head. She hit the nail on the head. And even to her point where she unified all the deities, because it is all one, friend. It is all one. And you just hit the nail on the head. But this is why you're here. Because you're that girl. So,
oh my God.
So this is why you're here, friend, because you're that girl. So, friend, we have given tons of information, tons of good nuggets for the girls and the gents. What are these sacred rituals that you're into right now? Especially being the high priestess of your own spiritual collective. What would you suggest?
Yeah, it's for me, I always kind of go towards whatever I'm feeling. But what I noticed right? This is that alignment. Is that always around the new moon time?
Yeah.
Is a time when I am like decluttering and getting ready for a fresh start, which aligns with the new moon. So if you think about it, right, in the full moon, the energy has filled the moon, right? When you look and see the full moon, it is full, right? The energy has fulled up. After the full moon, that energy met its max. And so it's going to start lessening until we get the full circle, but it's empty again. So it's like a fresh slate.
Come on.
Right?
Yeah.
So always during this time, I notice that I start pulling shit out of my closet I don't want no more. I start reorganizing, kitchen. And it's not every month I'm doing the kitchen. This month it was the kitchen. Next month it might be a bathroom.
Right.
Maybe it's the car. Maybe it's the shop. Like what? Let me start archiving products that didn't do well, that didn't meet expectations we don't want to sell anymore.
Yeah.
So a normal ritual for me during this time of every month close to the new moon is I start cleaning shit out, getting ready for that fresh canvas, because on or right after a new moon, then I want to set new intentions.
I love
right. So I got that clear canvas, so if I'm doing my closet, it's clear. I got rid of the bullshit. Now I'm like, okay, now we on grown and sexy. We only buying grown and sexy moving forward, or we're tapping into divine feminine.
Yes.
So what clothes are flowy and flirty and free and make me feel pretty, right? So that's kind of the ritual for me, is clearing out and then setting the new intention for what I want to bring in next.
Phenomenal. And it's so interesting, but of course she's aligned. Virgo, this new moon in Virgo, right? So we're entering Virgo season at the start of the new moon, and that is Virgo's kind of like their judge, as I like to say. Virgos tend to have a rep of being very meticulous. I don't buy it.
Damn.
Listen. Here's the thing.
Sorry to y'all. Wait.
Look.
Sorry to y'all Virgos.
Listen. I'm a Pisces. Y'all know I'm y'all's opposites. Okay, the opposites are one and the same, right? So I had my best friend growing up was a Virgo. My sister, like I'm so familiar with Virgos. I understand y'all, and I feel like Virgos are meticulous, but in very nuanced ways. It's not what you would think meticulousness is. But to Tracy's point, she's absolutely right, because the general consensus when it comes to the Virgos personality, I feel like male Virgos might be a little bit more meticulous than female Virgos when it comes to like clutter and stuff like that. I think they're more meticulous like that, but I think the meticulousness is very nuanced. But to Tracy's point, she was even saying categorically her decluttering, first it'll be the kitchen, then it'll be a closet, then it'll be the shop, so it just depends. But again, just aligning with her again, it's very virgin, very Virgo coded, as the kids like to say, right? But she was spot on. So not only does the new moon present that opportunity to cleanse that slate clean, like she said, but the Virgo season gives us another opportunity to do that and then some. And then on top of that, this being the black moon, which signifies a second new moon in the same month, which is
and a third out of 4 in a season.
Go off, friend. Go off. And that is very like I was talking to Tracy the other day, and she was like, it's like a blue moon. And I was like, yeah, because it only happens every 33 months. So what probably the both of us, but specifically what I could suggest is like really take this new moon in Virgo and go for it. You heard Tracy's story. You heard her like literally from the start to the finish. Follow the signs. Follow the signs, y'all. You will never be led astray if you do that. You will never be led astray if you do that. And if you continue to follow the signs, you'll see how your life completely unfolds. It changed for the better. It really does. And I don't mean signs that aren't there. I don't mean patterns that aren't there, but those that make sense to you.
Yeah.
You know?
Agreed.
Yeah, those that make sense to you. Continue to follow them. And you know, Tracy, I'm just so happy to have you on this first episode of Demystified. You broke our proverbial cherry. And I'm just so grateful. I love you so much. You know, you're so wise, gorgeous, gorgeous girl. gorgeous girl. So accomplished, but also very humble. And I don't mean in like the I'm humble, but like just gracious. Just gracious. You know, just lovely. You know, such a lovely individual, so wise beyond your years, and so grounded, friend.
I receive all of that.
And
I
you should.
appreciate it. Thank you. I'm working on my feminine too.
Listen, and we get it, yeah. She pulled up. I said, "Don't change." She was gonna change. I said, "We, come on, yeah." But Trace, tell the people where they can find you. What platforms? We already know her shop, so if y'all don't know, 312 Elm in Long Beach. Even if you live in Timbuktu, if you come to California, you have to stop at this shop.
Yes. And online is an experience too. We ship worldwide. So those of you who are watching from a distance, please support the online store.
Period.
In addition to the shop, the Instagram is the Elemental Shop with underscores in between each word. Same for our TikTok. And yeah, I think also on the website, you can see that we are hosting classes every month. And excited to bring back some other community events. So we do some things for the grown and sexy. Ariel knows we've had some hookah events and other things like that. So
it's lit, y'all.
Yeah.
Live music.
You want to
saxophone is playing all the hits.
Yes, you want to get lit with like-minded people. And I think for your business needs, for your corporate needs, please check out www.wbdmanagement.com. I had to think about if I spelled out will be done or not. But yes, WBD is a third-party HR resource firm. So those of you that are starting your business or maybe well in your business or maybe somewhere where you work need some HR support, hit us up. And I think that's it. I think that's where you can find me.
Well, thank you so much, my friend. I'm so honored and blessed and highly favored to have my dear friend, Tracy Williams, on the pod today. So until then, set those Black Moon intentions, okay? Stay mystical. And this is Demystified. We love y'all.